welcome to Friday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic. Now, we've had a romantic week here on Cracking the Cryptic. On Monday we had Kuraban's puzzle, which featured a secret marriage proposal. And today's puzzle has been made by Zeta-Math. Now, Zeta-Math's real name is Tommy. And as a surprise present to his husband Tristan, on the occasion of their 10th wedding anniversary, which is today, Zeta-Math has constructed the puzzle on screen. This is its absolute debut. I don't think this has been seen anywhere before. And Zeta-Math is an absolutely brilliant constructor. So this ought to be a lot of fun and quite a challenge, I'm told, by the testers. So I'm looking forward to giving it a go. And if you enjoy it, and if you have any interest in setting, you'll be interested in Zeta-Math's constructor video, which we released on the channel a couple of days ago. So do check that out. Now, there is a bit of pressure on me to solve this today because it's their wedding anniversary, and if I don't solve it, that's going to be shame on me, frankly. I know Mark can't try and solve this one today because Mark has done a puzzle that we talk about in our most recent podcast. So yesterday, the 4th episode, I think, of our podcast, Chatting the Cryptic, went live. It should be available on Spotify and all those other things, or all those other places you can get it. But amongst other things, Maverick's already making an appearance today. It is bizarre. There's been no aeroplanes all day until right now. I'm almost wondering if that phone call Mark made the other day was real. Anyway, it's two of them. It's two Mavericks. Anyway, Mark, right, let's try and concentrate. Mark, in the podcast, we talked about a puzzle that Peter apparently had submitted to the channel many, many months ago. Peter, it's the puzzle Peter is most proud of. And basically, we couldn't remember it. I certainly don't think I've ever seen it. Mark had seen it, but I don't think he'd done anything with it. I don't know whether he sent it to the testers or not. But anyway, Mark has today attempted that puzzle by Peter, and apparently it is a monster. I'll tell you that the video is over an hour long, which, given if you know how quickly Mark solves, that means there is a lot of logic therein. And so do check that video out. Probably isn't out by now, is it? No, it'll be out in a couple of hours. Other than that, what else to tell you about? Our Killer SUDOKU app has been updated, and of course over on Patreon. 1st of July, Jovial's SUDOKU extravaganza, 20 puzzles covering all of the themes that we often cover on the channel. So there's Arrow SUDOKU, there's Thermo SUDOKU, Killer SUDOKU, Diagonal SUDOKU, Clone SUDOKU, XV SUDOKU, etc., etc. All of the puzzles are approachable and designed to be so. And I'm also very confident now that our special prize is going to be there for that. So very exciting times if you're a patron of the channel over on Patreon. Now, what are the rules of this puzzle by Zeta-Math? It's called 625, which when I saw it I thought was 25 squared, but of course it's not. It's just the date. It's the 25th of June. In England, we write the dates the other way around. But if you're American, and I'm sure that Tommy and Tristan are American, 625 would be how you'd write today's date, and that this is their wedding anniversary. So let me read you the rules. You can see there are no regions in this grid. Every row and column contains the digits 1 to 9 exactly once each. Digits may not repeat along the marked blue diagonal. Right, okay. In cages, digits must sum to the small clue in the top left corner of the cage, and digits cannot repeat within a cage, so normal Killer SUDOKU rules. Every cage must be entirely shaded or unshaded, and every row and column contains at least one shaded cell. Okay. In each row and column, the cell that contains the number of shaded cells in that row or column is indicated either by a square or a circle. Wow, okay. I'm following this so far. There's quite a lot more rules. Circles indicate that all shaded cells in that row or column are orthogonally connected. Squares indicate those shaded cells are not all orthogonally connected, though some may be. Whether a particular square or circle corresponds to its row or column or both is to be determined. Good grief. What on earth does this mean? Let's just try and understand what a circle and how a circle and a square differ, because I'm not sure I understand that at the moment. Circles indicate that. So if we just have an 8 in this square, this is a circle. Then we have to decide whether the circle applies to the row or the column, I think. Let's say it applies to the row. Then we're saying that in this row, all of the shaded cells, not the circled cells, all of the shaded cells are orthogonally connected. I see. So there's no gap. So that would mean something like that would be possible, I think. Now let's do a square clue instead and see how that might differ. We'll make this a 5. And let's say that this is a horizontal clue. Right, okay, so this is saying squares indicate those shaded cells are not all orthogonally connected. Right, so I think what that's saying is that the shaded cells in row 4 would have to have a gap between them somewhere, or maybe more than one gap. So maybe we could do the shading. Let's get rid of this shading. So maybe we could do that. And we can't. In a cage, they're all either shaded or unshaded. So let's do those two. We've got to have one more. Make it that one. Right. So then we could have unshaded being green. So I think that would be a valid way of filling row 4 of the grid. I'm just wondering what happens if they do that. Does that mean that these are now orthogonally connected or not? Let me just read the rules again. In each row and column, the cell that contains the number of shaded cells in that row or column is indicated by a square or a circle. Circles indicate that all shaded cells in that row or column are orthogonally connected. Squares indicate that those shaded cells. Right, I think it just applies to the row. So even if they're orthogonally connected via other rows, that is not what the circle or square is referring to. It is referring to the fact that we just look at this row or this column, if it applied to the column, but let's say it applies to the row, and because it's a square there must be a gap between the cells that appear. If it's a circle there must be no gap. Wow, that's complicated. Goodness. Let's see how we go. Do have a go yourselves. The way to play is to click the link under the video as usual. Now I get to play. Let's get cracking. Now I'm hoping, in fact I can see some immediate killer cages. I can put some digits in here. Let's do that, see where that gets. That 30 in 4 cells is a 6, 7, 8, 9. 15 in 5 cells is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 29 in 4 cells. Oh, this is generous so far. That one isn't 4 cells, that's 5 cells. Is that a T? Is that a T for Tommy and Tristan? Oh, that's very cool. 30 in 4 cells, that's 6, 7, 8, 9. 8 in 3 has to have a 1 in it. There's a 6 cage at the bottom. Quadruple in column 5. Let's just check for anything else. So, I've got question mark cages. Okay. So I suppose what we're meant to just realise about these cages is that you can't repeat a digit in them. Right, let's have a look at column 5. I've got a quadruple there. So that means in this quadruple, this 1, 2, 3, 4 quadruple, the 3 in this quadruple must be in these two squares. So there's no 3 in that cell. And similarly, the 4 in this quadruple must be in those two cells. So that can't be a 4. So we get some 1s and 2s. It's not another one. It is another one. Hang on a minute. Right, I'm sorry about that. That was another hornet that's just flown into my room. I have got rid of that one as well. We obviously have a nest somewhere nearby. These things are absolutely massive. They're about that big. I don't know if you can see that, but that's how big the thing was that was just buzzing around in here. Anyway, where was I? Yeah, okay, I've got some 1s and 2s. So, now, what can we prove from that? We can do what? don't know. I've got a 6, 7, 8, 9 quadruple in row 3, so that's got to be a 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5. 2, 3, 4. This cell is in a 9 cage. Now it can't be 1, 2, 3 or 4, so it must be 5 or 6. If we try and put 7 here, these two squares would have to be double 1, and that won't work. This is good. We're going to get this digit now, because this domino here is either a 1 and a 3 or a 1 and a 2, depending on whether this is 5 or 6. So either way round, there's a 1 here, which means this is a 2, which means there's no 2 there, which means there's no 1 here, apart from me. I mean, there's no 1 in this domino, which means this square is a 1, which means that square's not a 1. It's very odd that I've got no regions. These killer cages are, obviously there are slightly like regions, but it's very strange to try and scan around these digits and see nothing at all. Okay, have we learned anything majorly important here or not? I don't think we have really. Okay. This square is interesting, the very central square of the grid, because of this 1, 2, 3, 4 quadruple again. That square has got to be a 5, 6, 7, 8 or 9, and look, it's in a row where we also have other digits that have to be selected from just those digits. So what does that mean? That means that these squares cannot be 5, and it means these squares must be from 1, 2, 3 and 4. That's not actually as good as I was hoping. I mean, there are some simple deductions here, like we can see that there's a 1 in one of those 3 squares and there's a 1 in one of those 3 squares. So how many 1s do we expect there to be in row or column 8, I should say, of this Sudoku? Well, it's going to be exactly 1, because that's what the rules tell us. There's going to be exactly 1 in column 9 as well. But we know the 2 1s that are in column 8 and column 9 together are in those 6 cells. So you can't have any 1s in any of these cells. Now, ordinarily, in a Sudoku with regions, this would probably lead us to a deduction of one type or another. But here, you know, we know things like there's no 1 in the 18 cage in those 2 squares, but I don't think we know much more than that. 2 here. Okay, yeah, the 2 here helps us with the 9 cage, doesn't it? Because this can't be a 6 now. If it's a 6, this would be a 1, 2 pair, and it can't be, so that's a 5. This is a 1, 3 pair, and that does nothing. 5 comes out of that square. So the the quintuple now, you can see the 5 in this quintuple is locked over here into this domino, which means there can be no 5 in those 2 squares. Which doesn't seem to do anything either. Am I going to have to use the squares and the circles somehow? But how are we going to know? Maybe we can use them. We know... Hang on, let me just check this. Do we know that each row and column... Yeah, in each... The cell that contains the number of shaded cells is indicated either by... Yes, so in each row and column, I read this as saying there must be a square or a circle that tells you how many shaded cells there are. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but row 9 only has that cell in it that's a square or a circle. So surely this must apply to row 9. I suppose the other thing we've got to bear in mind is the brackets or both here in the final line of the instructions. So even though I think we now know that this applies to this row because it's the only thing that can do, it could presumably also apply to the column. How am I going to get any sort of grip on this at all? Sorry, I'm just trying to figure out what is going on. If there is a high number Ah, right, almost. I almost had a deduction there about this digit, and in fact this digit. Imagine that was a 6. Now, if it's a 6, I don't think we do know. We know that if it's a horizontal 6, that the 6 shaded cells in row 3 have to be connected with one another, which would mean they could go like that, or they could go like that, or they could be some intermediate number. That's 7 though, I think I just highlighted there. It could be like that. But I got it. Right, or I've got a deduction. You can't ever put 9 in a square clue, because there needs to be a gap. That's what the square clue is. It's saying that in connecting or in looking at the shaded cells in a row or column, there must be a gap between them, and there can't be a gap if the clue is 9. So we can remove 9 from all the square clues. Sorry, I should have got that straight away. That doesn't do anything. It removes 9. It gives us a 9 vertical in one of those 2 cells. Oh, I see, it's this digit, is it? I've just noticed this digit's on the diagonal with that digit, so that digit and that digit are the same. Oh, that's right. This is absolutely beautiful. Right, I've got a deduction that actually matters here. This square here is interesting. Why is it interesting? Because it sees 3 of the cells in the 30 cage, and it has to be one of the digits in the 30 cage because the only options for the cell are 6, 7, 8 and 9, which are the exact composition of the digits in the 30 cage. So whatever goes in here, look, where does it live in this 30 cage? It can't be in those 2 squares because it'll see those by Sudoku, and it sees that one on the diagonal. So it must go here. Those 2 digits are the same. These 2 digits are the same. Now, ordinarily that might not be interesting except for this 29 cage. So what would happen if this was a 7 or an 8? If we go double 7 there, you now can't put 7 in the 29 cage. If you go 8 there, you can't put 8 in the 29 cage. So the only thing I think that you can put in to this square is a 6. So that must be a repeated 6, which takes 6 out of those squares. That's not 6. Okay, that's actually not done very much, has it? What about those 2 squares? Those are 7s, 8s and 9s. Oh, bother. Look, there's a 7, 8, 9 triple in row 4. Although that doesn't actually seem to do anything. So these squares have got to be 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5. Oh, we're getting to levels of pencil marking that I just distrust now. 1 and 3 domino here. So this is a 4 or a 5. This is not a 1. No, I don't think I can limit that in the 8 cage. 7, 8, 9 here. So the 5. Oh, we've already looked at this. The 5's definitely there, so the 5's not there. Can I use the diagonal? Is there some other trick with this diagonal? I don't think there is. I mean, we've only actually got 3 pencil marks now on the diagonal. These 6s are not helping me by being coloured. Stuck. sorry, let me think about this. I think there must be more going on with the circles and the squares. I've just got to work out what it is. Let me read the rules again. Sorry. Every cage must be, I mean the bits of the rules are the complicated bit. Every cage must be entirely shaded or unshaded. And every row or column contains at least 1 shaded cell. Oh, right. Sorry. Okay, I've now understood something that I hadn't understood before. Those three squares are all shaded. Those three squares are all shaded. Now, how do I know all three of these squares are shaded? Well, it's because they have to be 7, 8 or 9. And that means I don't have to ask the question, are they vertical or horizontal? Because whether they are vertical or horizontal, how are you going to connect at least 7 cells in this column or in this row? And the answer is, it's a bit like doing one of those nonograms, isn't it? We don't know how we're going to find 7 cells connected, but we do know this square, which is 3 in from the edge, will always have to be there, because if we try and make this, I'll use green for sort of an unshaded cell. I know that sounds a bit perverse, but I'll use green for unshaded. How do I now connect 7 cells continuously in row 4 or column 3? You cannot do it. You can only get to a count of 5 there and 6 there. So this is shaded. And if it's shaded, it's in a cage, and the whole cage gets shaded. So all of those are shaded. And the same logic applies here. Of course, it's the same. If you make this green, you can only get to a count of 6 that way and 6 this way. So that's purple, so all of those turn purple. Now, what does that mean? I do not know. I feel that's a big breakthrough though. Just got to understand how we can think about it. So this clue, which is a square clue, must apply to this row, because no other clue can apply to this row. This circle clue must apply to this column, because no other circle or square lives in that column. Similarly, this must apply to the column. The thing I'm just a bit hesitant about, though, is that it does say or both, which means I can't rule out something applying in both directions, which is a bit strange. There's a quadruple there, the 6 of which is in this domino, so that square can't be a 6. What else can we do here? This can't be a 9 because it's in a square. We've worked that out. This. I have no idea what I'm meant to be looking at here. I really don't. I mean, Zeta Maths puzzles are tricky. They are tricky, so there's going to be something clever. Or it's more likely, actually, with this rule set, it's going to be something I haven't understood about how it works. Like, it was a real surprise to me to think about 7s and that they had to be, you know, that I could therefore shade these cells in. Now, I've got one digit in a square that is known, and that's this one. Does this one tell me something that I'm not appreciating? I don't think it does in the row, does it? Because if this applied to the row, oh, no, hang on. If it did apply to the row, those 3 squares would have to be unshaded, because otherwise you'd have a string of 6 shaded cells in the row, and the 6 is saying that's not the case. So if this applied to the row, it would be genuinely interesting. So can I rule it out of the column? If I've got, oh, this is lovely. Right, yes, this is beautiful. The 6 is not a column clue. Why is it not a column clue? Well, because look, there are 3 dominoes, if you like, that live in cages down here. So in each case, I have to ask the question, is this a shaded cage or an unshaded cage? Now it doesn't matter how many of these cages I decide are shaded. I'm always going to reach an odd total of cells that are shaded in this column, because I start with 3 and I'm then always adding an even number of shades to it depending on how many of these turn out to be shaded. So you can never have a 6. It's impossible to get a count of 6 in this column. So this is a row 6, and therefore what I said before is correct, which is these must be unshaded. That's lovely. And now 1, 2, 3, and now we look, we're going to get loads, because the rest of this row has to be shaded to reach a count of 6, and these are all in cages, which are all therefore turn shaded. And suddenly I feel like I've made immense progress. So have I made immense progress, really? Now if this 6, oh no, I was about to make an incorrect statement. Though it might matter for that one. I was about to say if this 6 applies to the row, surely something here has to apply to the column, and it does, but the problem with that is that these could equally as well be row clues. Although that one... No, this can't be a row clue. This is really cool. This can't be a row clue anymore, because it's a circle, and there is definitely a gap now in the purples, or the shaded cells, in row 5 of the grid. So this row's clue must be, in fact it must be an 8. It must be an 8, and it must be there. That's the only cell that can give a square 8 clue in that row. That's really clever. That is really clever. So now we get a 7-9 pair here. We get rid of 8s in those squares. There's definitely an 8 in this domino now. Let's put that in like that, which means this is no longer an 8. I feel like I'm going to have to try and keep track of which, the fact that I've solved the across clue. So maybe I'm going to need more than 2 colours here. I think I will do that. I'm going to go red. I'm going to put a red flash in cells that apply to rows, and I'll put a blue flash in cells that apply, or circles or squares that apply to columns, and then I should be able to keep track of what I've got and what I haven't got. Because, no, that's not right. I was about to make another incorrect statement. So this clue is clearly, it's a circle clue, so it cannot apply to its row, which has a gap between its shaded cells. So this applies to its column, so that's a blue cell. And it's a 7, 8 or 9, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Or another way of looking at that is that the middle 5 cells surely have to be filled, don't they? Because whether I start from here or here, I'll always fill the middle 5, so all of those turn purple. Now, what does that mean? I don't know. Do I know what this one is? No, I don't. It could be either way, couldn't it? So this yes, here we go. Let's look at this square and ask whether it applies to its row or its column. Now I think it has to apply to this column, because this column needs a valid clue in a square or a circle. It's only got this as a square or a circle cell, so this has got to be the clue that applies to this, and it's got to, you can see, because we've got, oh no, that's wrong. Well, it is, no, it's not wrong. It's not wrong. It's still true to say that this is the clue for this column, because nothing else can be. But it's in a square, so that implies that there must be a discontinuity between the shaded cells, so one of those becomes shaded. It's not as good as I hoped. There's probably more we can do with that, but I don't think I know whether that's shaded or not shaded. Sorry, I thought I could do more with that. This clue must be like that one, mustn't it? It cannot apply to its row, so that's a column clue. So that means this square cannot be a 1 or a 2 because it already sees 3 clues. And it also means, look, if this is even as maximum of a 5, it would only get down to there. So those 2 squares at the bottom must be green, and therefore those must be green because they're all in a cage. Now this clue. What's the clue for this? It's this one, isn't it? Oh, this is... I've got it. Look, this clue here, what can it be? Once you get this as green and you know it's a continuous streak of shaded cells... In fact, those 2 I've just noticed are in a cage with that, so they have to turn purple. But this has to be a 7, because that's the only thing that's going to work. We can't make this 8 anymore once you get the green there. So that becomes green in order to make sure it's only a sequence of connected cells. We can get rid of the 7s from these squares. We can place an 8 here by our old friend Killer Sudoku. Once we get a 5-9 pair here, this is now a 7. This is a 9. That's interesting. So that's saying that either in this direction or this direction you have a the whole column or the whole row is... Oh, that's in the same cage as well. I didn't spot that, sorry. So it's probably this row. That can't be 9, that can't be 9. 9 in that 30 cage gets placed. Do I know that it's this row? I probably do. There's probably a way of telling. I'm just not sure what it is. Oh no, if this was 8, that could be green and that would work for the row. So I don't know for sure. Okay, sorry. What about that? Ah, yeah, look at this 7. This is the key, isn't it? This 7 is going to determine this 9, because this 7 cannot apply to its row because there's a discontinuity. So it applies to the column. Once it applies to the column, it means this must apply to the row, because you can't have a 7 and a 9 for the same column of the grid. Now that means that has become purple. That means, oh, we already knew this was this way for some reason. Sorry, I'm not paying attention to my new method of marking colours that mean ups and downs. Right, so this is a 7 vertical. Oh, but so I know those 2 are in, which means those are in, but I don't think I know which of these is shaded and unshaded. Oh well. Now this row now needs a square. Where's it going to get it from? It must get its square from that direction. Now you can't have the circle also applying to the row, so the circle must apply to the column. And there's at least 4 cells, so this is at least a 4, and it can't be greater than 7. So it's 4, 5, 6. Oh, sorry, 4, 5, 6, or 7. Let's get rid of the 4s in the corner there, the 3s in the corner there, and take another stare. How many... What about that? Do we know what that is? Yeah, we've already got the across clue, so that must be a vertical clue. And its maximum size is 4, so all of those turn green. Because we've already got 3, we could never get further than this square, so all of those go green. These turn green, and we can immediately then revisit this column where those must be shaded, and that means we shade the whole of the 18 cage. Now, where do we look next? This 5 is... Yes, this 5... how could we make the 5 apply vertically? We can't now. This square could... Because it has to be a continuous sequence of 5, because it's a circle. Now that's not a continuous sequence of 5, so the 5 must be applying horizontally, and therefore it must connect these 2 things together. So all of those turn purple. That completes the 5 and gives us greens on either end of it. Now, this is I love this. This is just so clever. Now I can use this column clue, because I've now got a discontinuity, so I know I need a square clue in column 5. The only thing that could give me a square clue is that. Therefore, this cannot be a 1, because there are already 2 shaded cells. That's a 4. That's a 1. Now, unfortunately, I'm now realising I don't know whether this is shaded or that's shaded. One of those two things is true, but I don't think I know which. But that's definitely a down clue. Now, that means this clue is not a vertical clue, so this is a horizontal clue. And it's a 2 or a 3. So that's 2 or 3 shaded cells in that region. Well, that's therefore green. This column, hang on, this column needs a clue. It can only be that one. So that's shaded, and that must be at least, well, in fact, that must be a 5 or a 6. So it's either 5 or 6 if that one turns out to be shaded. Okay. Now this is a horizontal clue. It's the only clue that can apply to row 2. We already see 4 cells shaded, so this square has to be at least 4, 4, 5 or 8. Because it can't be 6, 7 or 9. This 9 is giving me a 9 and a 5, I've just noticed, by Sudoku. And we pause for breath. Okay. What does all this mean? I don't know. I really don't. Do we know what this one is? Yeah, that must apply to the row. Because nothing else can. That means this square is a 1, 2 or a 3, because there's a maximum of 3 shaded cells possible, which doesn't actually give me anything, unfortunately. Wow, okay. So now I'm suspecting that there's probably a few places in the puzzle where I haven't made use of my squares and circles. Now this clue must be a vertical clue, because this is the horizontal clue for row 7, and it's at least a 4. So this has got to be 4, 6, 7 or 9. It's not 9. It can never put 9 in a square. 4, 6 or 7. It's not in a cage, so we don't know which it is. Bother. Okay. What do I do now? This is a 6, 7 or 8. That's applying downwards according to its blue colouring. Oh, golly, sorry. I forgot this is part of all the same cage, so I could automatically have shaded this one in. Don't think it actually takes me any further, but it was annoying I didn't do it. Actually, it does take me further. That can't be 4 anymore, because it sees 5. So this one, actually, really, I need to colour both colours, don't I? Because I need to say that it applies both in this direction and this direction. But the circle, we know, applies in this direction. Oh, so the circle is at least a 5. Okay, doesn't that give me this digit? I think so. Because how could I make a continuous sequence in this column of at least 5 if I don't have that one? I can't. That becomes purple. Now, what clue does that affect? That affects this one. Yeah, this now can't be a 4, so that has to be at least a 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ah, so if this was 5, the rest of this would turn green. Okay, I'm not sure what that means. Ah, no, I was about to say something wrong, because for some reason I thought this was a square clue, but no, this is a circle clue that applies in this column. Okay, what on earth do we look for next? This clue sees 4. I've only just noticed that, so those must be green. This must be a 4. Ah, that's important. That's important for the 8 cage. The 8 cage must be a 1, 3, 4 cage. That means this square's a 2. Ah, look, we're away again. This square is not 2. Those squares aren't 2. We've got a 1, 3 pair in row 4, so that's not 3. That's not 3. Now this was a circle clue applying to the column. Oh no, look, still not good enough. Oh, no, it's still not good enough. I can't do anything with that. I've got a 4, 5 pair now in this row though. So that must be a 2. Where did I get that? From the 1, 3 pair there. That feels good. That's got to be a 2. Now does that mean we know something about the... Yeah, maybe it does. Maybe we know something about the 30 cage now. We've got these have to add up to 22. So you can't make 22 in 3 squares with a 4 as one of the digits. That's a 5. This must be 9, 8 into those squares. We can see the order. And suddenly we're off and running, I think. 6, 8 here. The 6 is applying vertically, or the 8 if it's an 8. Not sure. This 5 means that's become a 4. Now that means this is continuous sequence, so that turns green. Does that affect this? Oh, which clue? No, hang on. Oh, I don't even know. I don't know which of these clues applies horizontally in row 1. Because it could still be, although I've labelled both of these green, one of them must apply in row 1. So one of these is doing double duty. Actually, you know what I should have done when I first started the puzzle? I should have added up how many actual circles and squares we have to work out how many are going to have to do double duty in the finished puzzle. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Is that one in? Yeah, 14, 15, 16. There are 16 circles and squares, and there are 18 rows and columns combined. 9 rows, 9 columns. So there are 2 cells that have to do double duty. This cell is doing double duty. We already knew that because it's labelled as a square and a circle. And there's one of these 2 is doing double duty. So everything else is just doing single duty. There's no 4s in those squares. Definitely a 2 in this domino because of the 1, 2, 3 triple. 1, 3, 5. That square's a 4. It's a naked single because it sees 1, 3, 5 in its row. This 4 is taking 4 out of that square. We haven't labelled this square up, but we know it's a vertical square. We could have labelled it up. And it's a 6 or a 7. That seems quite a high number. I don't think we know though. I mean, in theory, you could make 6 by just highlighting all those and make those 2 green at the top. Sorry, I think I'm a bit stuck. I've got 2 on this diagonal, ruling 2 out of that square. Look, 1, 3 pair on the diagonal. Oh, maybe the diagonal is now where I'm meant to look. I've got to put 4, 5, 7 and 8 onto it. Let's fill those squares in and see if any of them are interesting. Yes, that one we can rule 5 and 7 out of. This one we can rule 8 out of. That one we don't know anything. This one we can rule 4 out of. So, what have we learnt from that? Don't think we've learnt enough, but I'm probably wrong. Oh dear. This is not an easy puzzle, I don't think. You get a sense for these things, and this one does not feel easy. It feels like... But I think because the rule set is unfamiliar, I feel I'm not making the best use of it I possibly could. Now, I know this is applying downwards. I've got 2 shaded cells. I need 2 more. Oh yeah, I've already looked at this. getting the sense of deja vu here as I revisit logic I've already done. Ones and threes, threes and fives. Right, so it's going to have to be... It's going to have to be... What's it going to have to be? It's going to have to be... one of these circles or squares that I've not used properly, I think. I don't really have a way of marking when I've used them. So, do we know what that square is? Maybe this cage. I don't think so. There's too much optionality here. Yeah, I mean, I can see there's no 9 in it already just using Sudoku. Okay. Right, so what is the trick? What's the trick? This can't be 7, can it? Why have I got 7 still as an option in there? Because vertically I just can't get to a count of 7. So this is 5 or 6. Which means what? I don't know. This 7 is the vertical clue, this 4 is a vertical clue, this is both. So if it was 5, maybe I've got to just think harder about this. If it's 5, we're done horizontally, and this would be green, and this would be purple. Ah, there you go, there's a bit of logic. Whether this is 5 or 6, this is purple. And we know that. Let's just go through the options again. If this is 5, we already have our 5 correct in the row. So this would be green, but we need 5 in the column, so this would be purple. Now obviously if this is 6, that must be purple in order to get us to the count. So whether this is 5 or 6, that is purple. Now does that tell us something about this? 1, 2, 3, I don't know. Hang on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, bother. That could still be 6 and connect all those up. I'll do more with this. Let's just check this square. Maybe I can get this square and that'll give me that square. So if this is 5, this is green. Good grief. This is like a coloured Y-wing. If this is 5, this is green. Because obviously we've got our 5 count already in the row. If this is 6, watch what happens. Now, in the column, this has to turn purple, which completes the quota for the row, and this is still green. So, this is always green, which means this 4 is only completable by that one being in. Now, this is applying to the row. Now we're at a count of 6 in the row, so this square cannot be 5. That's an 8. That's not 8 anymore. 4, 5, 7 now on that diagonal is almost a triple, but not quite. If we can get rid of 8 from this square, it would be very helpful. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've got to have... Oh, this is... So there must be exactly one of these is green, and the other 2 are purple. But that can still absolutely be green. This is the big game in town, I think, to fix this column. Somehow we're going to have to do that. If that's a 7, you'd have to go 2 here, 1 here. You can do it. Ah! I thought maybe this 18 cage might be the key to the highway, but no. So, do we know about this clue? This is a down clue. If this is 8, everything gets shaded. Those would get shaded. That would be green. Sorry, I'm a bit stuck, as you've no doubt noticed. This 6 clue is a vertical clue. At the moment I've got 4 so far. It could be a 7 clue as well, of course. What about this clue? Is that somehow, is this somehow telling me the answers? Telling me what I need to know? I don't know. If that's a 3, that has to be a 3. And that would mean all of that would get shaded in. Does that break anything? The answer is this would be a 6 at least. It can be. I don't know. Maybe it's Sudoku. Maybe there's something Sudoku-wise that we're missing. That's a horrible thought, isn't it? What Sudoku-wise could we be missing in this grid? I don't think we can be missing much. That's that is. I agree. That's famous last words. But I mean, look at it. We don't have enough digits, do we, to really limit things here? Or maybe we do, and I'm just not appreciating how we do it. Is there something we can say about anything? Thing is, if I've just misanalyzed one of these, or incompletely analysed one of these things, that's going to be very challenging. This is a 2 or a 3. Okay, here we go. This is a 2 or a 3. This is important, because doesn't that mean this has to be purple? Because how do I, even if this is a 2, one of these two squares is purple, which means that once one of them is purple, they are both purple, which means that the whole cage is purple. It doesn't tell us whether this is a 2 or a 3, but it does tell us how this 4 is comprised, because we've now reached a count of 4, which means those squares must turn green, which presumably is going to have an effect on something. So this 5 clue must be... 5 or a 6 clue is now a vertical clue, which we already knew, but it's not. It's definitely not a horizontal clue. So this clue is doing double duty. And that means it looks a bit like the South African flag now. The 8 clue's done. Yes, the 8 clues done by this one. Those must both turn purple. This can't be 8. Look at that. It can't be 8. It's got 2 greens in its column. That's a 6. Wow. That's an 8. That's a 4. 5-7 pair on the diagonal. That's an 8. Oh, I've just realised what's going on. It's an anniversary puzzle. This is starting to look like a heart. It's starting to look like a heart. I'm not going to use that fact to solve it. I think that's going to have to be shaded, and so is... where's the symmetry going to take us? That's going to be shaded. I won't use that, but that is really clever. So we need 4s, 7s and 8s in this column. Let's put those in. Let's see if we can get anywhere with that. That's not 8. Now, what have we learnt as a result of these shenanigans? We have learnt this is a 6 clue. We've now got a count of 5, so we don't know which of those is shaded. This one is a 6 or a 7, and we're at a count of 6. So we don't know which of these is shaded, of course. You rotten thing. Okay. Where do I look next then? This one could still be 5 or 6, and it works perfectly well either way. It's going to be a 6 in order to preserve symmetry, but we can't use that. This is done. That's not resolved yet. This is done. That's done. That's not done and is unresolved. That's done. That's done. That's done. That's done. That's done. This is done. This one's unresolvable. This one's done. This one's unresolvable. This one is not yet done. Right, I can do something tricky, again, using this square now. If this is 3, that's 3. All of these turn purple, and that breaks this column, look. That's a 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's now gone wroggen. So we can actually, I think... oh, hang on, what's going on? I think what we can do now is say this cannot be a 3, which might not actually do anything. Oh, maybe it gets something via that. So that's got to be a 1. We now know this is not a 3 because that would put a 3 here as well. So this has now become a 3 and this has become a 1. Oh, I don't believe it. It's not going to do anything. Oh, no, it does, of course, because this is the clue that applies to the row. Ah, I forgot to highlight that. That's forced because, of course, nothing else can apply in this row. So those two must turn green. Now, does that... 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, look. That's a count of 5. So that's got to turn purple, which means this square here must be a 3. And that's a 2. So our heart is getting designed now. Okay, I think we're really close now to something at least that we can understand. 3 is very restricted actually in this column, I've just noticed. 3 can't go in those two squares, but it can go here unfortunately, and it can go there, and the fact that we've got no regions is now making this very challenging indeed. Maybe this square is restricted. That's in the 19 cage. It's got to be 1, 2, 3. Oh no, it hasn't. It's got to be 2 or 6. That's right. This feels important. Surely it can't be 2. If it's 2, oh, it can be. That could be a 7, 9 pair. I don't believe it. If that's a 2, this has got to be a 9. That's got to be a 7. If this is a 6, these have to add up to 12. Oh, I don't believe it. No, that's no good. Oh, come on, Simon. I'm so sorry if you're flying through this one. I don't know what to do. If I've got loads of odd numbers in this column so far, I need to put some even numbers into it. Is that the trick? No, because I don't know enough about even numbers. Ah, where does 4? Yeah, where does 4 go in this column? Good grief, it goes there. Let me double check that. That's horribly difficult. 4 can't go there. 4 can't go here. I think 4 can only go there in column 2. That is a good... I'm pleased with spotting that. That makes this a 7, this a 5, this a 6. That's in one of the important cells. That becomes a 7. Now, does that mean, what does that mean? We need these to add up to 11. They can do it 2 ways, 5, 6 or 2, 9. Don't believe it. What about this 6 then? Is this 6 doing magic for us? That is telling us that this has become a 5. Oh, I'm not sure if it told us that even, but I can see it now is true. 13, those two have to add up to 5, and they can't include a 4. So this is a 2, 3 pair, isn't it? Which means that would have to be a 3. This would have to be a 2. Happy days. Now, this 6 is telling us that's applying vertically, isn't it? Because it's a blue clue, so that turns purple. That completes our quota of 4 horizontally, so that turns green. And that's the finished puzzle in terms of the shading, isn't it? I've got a beautiful heart there. I'm going to once I've finished the actual puzzle... Oh no, I still haven't done that square. I haven't finished it yet. I mean, I know it's going to be purple, but I haven't finished. I haven't logically deduced that this is purple. And I want to sort of, presumably I should make the heart red as well at some stage, which I will have to do later if I can solve the rest of this. So we need 3s and 6s into these two positions. I don't think I can do that immediately. Oh no, what about this column then? We still need 1, 2, 3 and 6. Well, that's rather nice. That's a 1. This is a 2 or a 6. So the question I should have asked is, where does 3 go in this column? Because it can only apparently go at the bottom. Okay, well, let's have a look at this row then. Those have got to be 5, 7 and 9 in some order. That is useless. That is a little bit useless. That is absolutely useless. 5, 9 pair in column 2 allows me to remove 5 from that square. And this square has become a 6 at last. 2 and 6 go in. That's a 5 to make the cage add up. That becomes a 9. This has got to be a 2 or a 3. Now, this 6 is applying vertically and horizontally, so that's making that purple, which is exactly what we expected. Okay, 1 second while I try and figure out. Hang on, what have we got here? We've got a 7, so we can get rid of 7 from there. We got a 4, 8 pair. This clue must be done. Yeah, this clue must be done, and it is a vertical clue, and it should be a 6, which makes that a 3 and that a 6. It's incredibly. I mean, imagine trying to set this. Good lord, it must have been complicated. 5, 7s and 9s. So those are 5, 7s and 9s. Whoops. That's not a 5. That's something. We don't know what. So we're getting into the realms where this cage here might come into its own. I'm not exactly sure where it's going to be the efficient place to look here, I have to say. I think we should look. I don't know. 1, 2, 4, 5 down here. Let's check those out. 1, 2, 4, 5. Can we get rid of much? We can get rid of 1. Ah, yeah, that square's a naked single. Would never have seen it. This square's now a naked single. Would never have seen that. 1, 5. These are all naked singles. It's just very hard to see. Now this column we need 4s, 7s, 8s and 9s. Let's see if we can find any more of these little treats for ourselves. 8, 4 comes out of there, 7 comes out of there, 4 comes out of there. Not quite. Actually, not really quite at all. No, okay, so 4s, 5s, 7s and 9s. That's a 5, 7 or a 9. That's a 5, 7 or a 9. So where does 4 go in this row? Again, it's another of these hidden singles that's just not easy to see. Let's try. This 2 is now giving me a 3 here. That's lovely. Aha! Got you. Got you. That's a 5 now. We can get rid of the 1s. This becomes a 2, 3 pair. This 5 is useful. In fact, it really is useful. That gives me a 7 and a 5 here, which means that's a 7. 7, 9 pair places the 5 in row 6. This needs 6, 7s and 9s into it. The 6 has to live here. The 7 has to live here. The 9 has to live here. I think we're getting there. I think we are. This is a 7 now by SUDOKU. That's a 9. That's a 7. Don't make a mistake now, Simon. 2, 8. 8, 9. Yeah, 8, 4. Have I done it? I think I have. Yes. Oh, I'm very proud of that. That didn't feel like a very easy puzzle. It's a beautiful puzzle. I mean, in more ways than one. It's beautiful logically, but it's also absolutely beautiful in terms of its look at the end. It's a lovely anniversary gift, isn't it? So let's try and see if I can make it perfect by doing that and doing, oh, that square's disappeared from its highlighting as well. I want to highlight that one, and I want to make them all red. And now I'm going to make that one not red and not blue, and that one not red. And now I'm going to make all the greens disappear, and that Tristan is your anniversary present from Tommy. Happy anniversary from us at Cracking the Cryptic. Let me just revisit quickly the puzzle and just talk about it. I've spent a long time on it already. I've been attacked by a hornet, so I think I deserve to just revisit the logic here just for a moment so I can sort of settle it in my own mind. Yeah, at the start we got given quite a lot of, at least options, didn't we? There were quite a lot of cages we could get a grip on. And then there was something I did around here. These two squares, yeah, that was it. These two squares had to be the same. And that allowed me to actually know that they were a 6. And then it just took me ages to understand how this 6 was actually, it had to be a horizontal clue because of the geometry of the cages in box 7, in column 7, which is a lovely idea that you have to sort of preserve the parity of these 3 cells, but it's not simple to see. Once you've seen that, we started to be able to sort of highlight which direction the clues applied in, and then it was a case of whittling it all down, which was made tricky especially by the fact there are no regions to use in the puzzle. So I apologise if I frustrated many of you. You'll no doubt let me know in the comments, but I did really enjoy the puzzle, I have to say, and I do enjoy the theme. So thanks so much for watching, and we'll be back later with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.